For the first time ever, a Federal Reserve chairman refused something major. Kevin Warsh walked into his very first meeting as Fed chair. Reporters asked him for his official interest rate forecast this year. He flatly declined, saying forecasting numbers wasn't helpful for setting policy. No sitting Fed chair in modern history has ever refused that. At that very same meeting, something even bigger happened behind closed doors. The committee erased every rate cut they had promised for this year. If you have a mortgage, credit card, or savings, this affects you. Before going further, hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Drop a comment below telling me where you think rates head next, and stay until the very end because the biggest numbers come later. Now let's break down exactly what happened inside that room this week. This meeting took place on June 17th, 2026, in Washington. It was the first policy meeting led by new chair Kevin Warsh. Warsh officially took the oath of office on May 22nd, 2026. He replaced Jerome Powell, who unexpectedly stayed on as a board governor. Powell still votes on rate decisions, sitting right next to his successor. Think about that. The old boss now reporting to the new one. The Federal Open Market Committee voted 12-0 to hold steady. Rates remained between 3.5 and 3.75%. That range has held steady across 4 straight policy meetings now. It was first set back on December 10th of 2025. On paper, that sounds calm, boring, and exactly what markets expected. Underneath the surface, the real story was anything but calm or boring. The Fed's official statement was rewritten and made dramatically, noticeably shorter. Gone was language hinting the Fed leaned toward cutting rates eventually. That easing bias had sat in every statement for over a year. Removing it quietly tells markets something important about where policy is heading. It tells them hikes are now firmly back on the table again. Now rewind just 2 months back to the Fed's April meeting. That April vote wasn't unanimous, and it wasn't close to unanimous either. 4 separate officials dissented against their own committee's final decision that day. 4 dissents sounds small, but historically, it is an absolutely massive number. The last time 4 officials dissented this way was October 1992. That's 34 years ago, before most working Americans today were even born. Back then, gas cost roughly $1.10 at the pump nationwide. The internet barely existed, and Bill Clinton hadn't won the presidency yet. That's the scale of how rare this kind of Fed revolt is. And now, just 2 months later, a brand new chairman walks in. He inherits a committee clearly divided about where rates should go next. Back to this week's meeting and the so-called dot plot update. The dot plot shows where each official privately expects rates to land. In March, projections showed rates ending near 3.4%. This week, that median projection jumped sharply to 3.8%. That's not a small tweak, that's a meaningful, deliberate shift in expectations. 9 of 18 officials now expect at least 1 hike this year. 6 of those 9 expect 2 separate hikes before the year ends. Meanwhile, any expected rate cut has been pushed back to 2027. Some officials pushed their cut expectations all the way to 2028. 3 months ago, markets were told to expect easier money this year. This week, that promise quietly disappeared without much fanfare or warning. So why is inflation suddenly such a serious concern again right now? The answer connects directly to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Fighting tied to Iran has pushed energy prices noticeably higher recently. Higher oil and gas prices ripple straight through the entire American economy. They raise costs for shipping, manufacturing, farming, and almost everything else, too. The Fed's updated forecast for inflation jumped from 2.7%. It now sits at 3.6% for headline inflation. Core inflation, which strips out food and energy, also climbed noticeably higher. It rose from 2.7 up to 3.3%. That's a massive upward revision for just one quarterly economic projection update. Meanwhile, actual inflation data is already confirming exactly what the Fed fears. May's Consumer Price Index came in at 4.2% annually. That's the hottest inflation reading the country has seen since 2023. At the same time, the job market refuses to cooperate with cuts. May added 172,000 new jobs, beating most expectations. Unemployment sat steady at 4.3%, basically unchanged all year. A strong job market gives the Fed cover to keep rates elevated. There's simply less pressure to cut when people are still finding work. So the Fed faces a real dilemma between high inflation and employment. Before this meeting, markets had priced in almost no chance of change. Futures traders gave roughly a 97% chance rates would hold steady. That part of the prediction turned out exactly correct, as expected. What traders didn't price in was how aggressive the new tone was. After Warsh's press conference, something shifted quickly across trading desks everywhere. Traders began pricing in a real possibility of a hike by October. Just weeks earlier, almost nobody expected any hike conversation this year. That's a significant, fast repricing of risk across nearly every financial market. Warsh was also asked directly about artificial intelligence and its economic impact. He called it both a genuine opportunity and a serious risk simultaneously. He said AI is, in his words, shorthand for American ingenuity itself. He also confirmed task forces will review how the Fed operates internally. That includes reviewing press conferences, the dot plot, minutes, and communication overall. In other words, Warsh wants to change how the Fed talks publicly. Refusing to submit his own forecast may be the opening move here. He told reporters plainly that submitting a personal forecast wasn't helpful. That single sentence may end up defining his entire early tenure. Wall Street strategists immediately noticed how deliberately controlled his messaging was. One senior strategist said he delivered on his promise to limit guidance. Limited guidance means more uncertainty, and uncertainty tends to make markets nervous. Nervous markets move faster, react harder, and overcorrect more than calm ones. None of this happened in a vacuum, separate from political pressure either. There has been pressure from the White House, pushing for lower rates. Warsh has insisted the Fed will remain, in his words, strictly independent. That tension between political pressure and central bank independence isn't disappearing soon. So here's where things stand after this single, unusually loaded Fed meeting. Rates are unchanged, but the tone around future policy has shifted hard. A historic descent, a refused forecast, and an erased rate cut together. Markets are now bracing for outcomes nobody seriously considered just weeks ago. And that tension is exactly where the real story only just begins. Within minutes of the decision, every major asset class started moving violently. Stocks that had hit record highs that same morning reversed hard fast. The Dow had touched a fresh intraday all-time high before the announcement. That marked the index's third straight session, setting a fresh record. Then Chair Warsh stepped up to the microphone and everything flipped. By the closing bell, the Dow had dropped 507 points. That's a decline of just under 1% in one session. The S&P 500 closed down 1.21%. The Nasdaq Composite fell even harder, down 1.34%. Tech megacaps led the slide, and the names involved surprised nobody. Microsoft, Meta, Alphabet, and Amazon all closed deep in the red. These are exactly the stocks most sensitive to higher interest rates. Higher rates shrink the present value of future profits, these firms promise. The more a stock depends on future profits, the harder it falls. That's precisely why expensive AI and tech names got hit hardest. Meanwhile, bond markets told an even louder story than stocks did. The 2-year Treasury yield, watched closely by every trading desk, exploded higher. It jumped roughly 16 basis points in a single trading session alone. That pushed the 2-year yield to about 4.21%. That's its highest level in more than a full calendar year. The 10-year Treasury yield climbed too, though by a smaller margin. It rose to roughly 4.47% by the close. Bond yields rising this fast signals one very specific market belief. Traders now believe a rate hike is genuinely coming, not just possible. By day's end, a December hike was essentially fully priced in. Odds of an even earlier October hike crossed 50% that day. Just weeks earlier, almost none of that was even being discussed. The US dollar surged on all of this, and surged hard fast. The dollar index had its best trading day in nearly a year. A stronger dollar makes American exports more expensive for foreign buyers. It also makes overseas trips cheaper for American tourists heading abroad soon. Gold, often called a safe haven during uncertainty, actually fell that day. It dropped more than 2% as the stronger dollar took hold. Higher real yields make non-yielding assets like gold less attractive instantly. Oil told a slightly different story, tangled up with the Iran ceasefire. Crude fell 2.6%, dropping below $80 a barrel. That's well below last week's wartime peak near $98 a barrel. That drop in oil is actually doing the Fed's job for it. Cheaper oil could pull next month's inflation numbers back down quickly. If that happens, this entire hawkish narrative could shift again fast. Bitcoin wasn't spared either, sliding alongside other risk-sensitive assets that day. It had been climbing on optimism tied to the Iran peace deal. A stronger dollar and higher rate expectations are classic headwinds for crypto. This is a reminder that crypto still trades heavily on macro sentiment. Now, here's something most headlines completely missed about this entire sell-off. Not every sector fell that day, and that detail actually matters most. Communications and consumer-focused stocks got hit the hardest of all today. Meanwhile, defensive sectors like utilities actually attracted buyers that same session. Banks tend to earn more when rates stay higher for longer periods. This wasn't one broad panic, it was a targeted sector-specific repricing event. Before moving on, hit subscribe if this video is useful so far, and comment below which sector you think gets hit hardest next. Now there's another number from this week that deserves your full attention. Housing starts collapsed 15.4% in May, a brutal drop. That brought starts down to 1.177 million homes. That's the lowest level for housing starts since May of 2020. The average 30-year mortgage rate sits at 6.52%. If you're shopping for a home right now, this affects your payment. Builders are already pulling back because financing costs keep climbing higher. Higher mortgage rates and weaker housing data rarely arrive together by coincidence. They're both symptoms of the exact same underlying inflation and rate story. Now let's talk about Warsh's actual philosophy, because it's genuinely unusual. He was directly asked if less guidance would create more market volatility. His answer revealed exactly how he plans to run this institution. He said markets work best reacting to real data, not Fed hints. He argued that when markets simply reflect Fed guidance back at itself, the Fed loses its most valuable source of independent economic information completely. In plain terms, he wants markets guessing instead of simply following along. That's a fundamental philosophical break from how the Fed normally operates. He also announced 5 separate task forces during that same press conference. These will review Fed communications, the balance sheet, and economic data methods. None of those reviews will finish quickly, but the signal matters now. Warsh is rebuilding how this institution talks to the public itself. He's doing it while inflation runs hot and markets stay nervous. That's an enormous amount of change happening at the worst possible moment. There's also a wholesale inflation number worth knowing about right now. Producer prices, which track costs before they reach store shelves, jumped sharply. That figure came in at 6.5% over last year. Wholesale inflation often shows up in consumer prices a few months later. That's one more reason the Fed isn't rushing toward any rate cut. Now let's translate all of this into something that actually affects you. Credit card rates are usually tied to the Fed's benchmark rate directly. A pause means your card rate likely stays exactly where it is. But a future hike would push that rate even higher than today. On the flip side, savings accounts and CDs actually benefit from this. Higher for longer rates mean better returns on cash sitting in savings accounts. That's the one silver lining for savers in this entire situation. Retirement accounts heavy in tech stocks likely took a real hit today. If your 401k leans toward growth stocks, you probably felt this. This is exactly why understanding Fed meetings matters for regular working people. It's not abstract Washington theater. It's your mortgage, your card, your savings. Let's zoom back out and connect these pieces together for a second. A historic dissent in April set the stage for this entire shift. A new chairman refused to forecast, adding fuel to growing market uncertainty. The committee erased a promised rate cut and hinted strongly at hikes. Stocks dropped, yields spiked, the dollar surged, and gold lost its shine. Bitcoin slid, housing weakened, and savers quietly came out ahead for once. Every single piece of that happened within just a few trading hours. That's the kind of day that rewires expectations for the year ahead. There's one more piece of this story that changes everything you've heard. This isn't just about Kevin Warsh versus a stubborn inflation problem. It's also about Donald Trump versus the entire Federal Reserve System. Trump personally pushed for Warsh, expecting him to slash rates fast. He's even joked publicly about suing his own pick if needed. That's an extraordinary thing for any president to say out loud. Instead, Warsh inherited hot inflation and a committee leaning toward hikes. He's now boxed in between political pressure and stubborn economic reality. Lower rates right now could easily reignite inflation even further upward. Higher rates risk slowing growth and angering the man who appointed him. There's no comfortable path here, only degrees of difficult and uncomfortable. This is exactly why Warsh keeps repeating one specific word constantly. That word is independence, and he's used it again and again. He told reporters directly the Fed will remain strictly independent always. That's a direct, unmistakable signal aimed straight at the White House. Whether that independence holds under sustained pressure remains the real open question. Now, let's talk about something else hiding inside that updated economic outlook. The Fed didn't just raise inflation forecasts, it cut growth forecasts too. Projected economic growth for this year now sits noticeably lower than before. That combination has an actual name economists use for this exact scenario. It's called stagflation, slower growth mixed with persistently high inflation together. Older Americans may remember this word from the 1970s firsthand. Back then, stagflation crushed paychecks while making everyday goods more expensive. Nobody's saying we're back in 1970s territory. That's an exaggeration. But the ingredients on the table look uncomfortably familiar to economists watching. Slower growth, stubborn inflation, and a central bank stuck between both problems. That's precisely the bind Kevin Warsh just publicly admitted to having. Let's also talk about something most retail investors completely overlook here. The bond market basically just told everyone its honest, unfiltered opinion instantly. When 2-year yields spike that fast, professional money is repositioning hard. That's not retail traders panic selling, that's institutional capital making serious moves. Big pension funds, insurance companies, and banks all watch these yields closely. When they move together this fast, it usually means real conviction exists. This wasn't some random one-day blip easily dismissed by tomorrow morning. It was a coordinated repricing across nearly every major asset class simultaneously. Now here's a number that puts everything happening into sharp perspective. The Fed's preferred inflation target has sat at 2% for years. Current inflation is running more than double that long-standing target rate. That gap is exactly why hikes are suddenly back in serious conversation. A small gap gets ignored, but a gap this size demands action. Let's also revisit something Warsh said about artificial intelligence one more time. He called AI a meaningful opportunity and a real risk simultaneously together. Why would a Fed chair even bring up AI during this meeting? Because AI investment is currently propping up enormous parts of the stock market. If rates rise sharply, AI-related stocks could face serious renewed pressure. That's billions in market value tied directly to where rates head next. This connects directly back to why tech stocks dropped hardest that day. Investors aren't just worried about rates, they're worried about AI valuation specifically. Those two worries are now tangled together in ways rarely seen before. Let's bring this back to something practical for everyday working Americans now. If you're carrying credit card debt, expect little relief anytime soon. If a hike actually happens, that debt could get more expensive still. If you're saving in a high-yield account, this environment actually rewards you. Shop around, because rates between banks vary more than people realize. If you're planning to buy a home, patience may be your friend. Rushing into today's mortgage rates without comparing options rarely makes financial sense. If you're invested in retirement accounts, diversification matters more than ever now. Heavy concentration in expensive tech and AI names carries real risk currently. None of this means panic. It means paying closer attention than usual. Now zoom out one final time and look at the complete picture. A 34-year descent record was broken just 2 months ago. A brand new Fed chair refused to give his own personal forecast. The committee erased a promised rate cut almost completely without much warning. Inflation forecasts jumped, growth forecasts fell, and stagflation fears quietly resurfaced again. Stocks dropped hard, yields spiked, the dollar surged, gold and crypto fell. Housing weakened further, savers benefited slightly, and tech investors felt real pain. Political pressure from the White House collided directly with central bank independence. And artificial intelligence sits right in the middle of this entire story. That's not one small headline. That's a genuine shift in financial direction. The next major test comes when the Fed meets again later this year. Watch whether inflation cools as oil prices keep falling like recently. Watch whether the job market stays strong enough to support current rates. Watch whether political pressure on Warsh increases or quietly fades away instead. And watch whether that promised rate cut ever actually returns at all. Markets hate uncertainty, and right now, uncertainty is the only certain thing. That's exactly why this story deserves your full attention going forward. If this breakdown actually helped you understand what just happened, subscribe now. Drop a comment below sharing whether you expect a hike or pause. Share this video with anyone confused about what the Fed just did. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next major update. The Fed just rewrote its own playbook in front of everyone watching. Make sure you're not caught off guard when the next move happens. Thanks for watching, and see you in the very next breakdown.